You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there, welcome to episode 64. How's your summer so far? How is your summer? Here in Dallas, the outdoor furnace has been turned on full blast, and man, is it brutal. We have had our usual ridiculous transition from spring to summer, where we have had so much rain, and that's been a bit disruptive to my routine. I know I've said I'm willing to walk in the rain, and that is true. However, not in torrential thunderstorms. That's just something I'm not down with, though I have been caught in them a couple of times and just gotten drenched. I don't mind the colder weather, really. You can layer up, and when the heat kicks in, you can wear light clothing, but it's harder to get relief from it when you're out in it, to get comfortable. And we all want to be comfortable, don't we? We do. At all times, both physically and emotionally. We're a bit spoiled as a species, aren't we? Especially if we are living in a first world country, and I assume if you are listening to this podcast that you are in a first world environment. Something to be aware of and appreciative of every day. We want our creature comforts. And I talk about the comfort-discomfort contrast a lot. Some references are more subtle than others, but ultimately that's what we're after, both physical and emotional comfort. That's why we seek help to feel better. There's nothing wrong with that. It's ingrained in us. Today I want to talk about the art of letting go, and it is an art because we don't want to do that. We want to have control of the outcome. Now, it may be obvious that we can't control things like the weather or even events that occur. Yet ask yourself, how much of my daily life am I trying to control? Because freedom, which is another concept I love to bring up here, is found through letting go. Relief from your emotional suffering is often found through letting go. Let me share a quick story that is related to this that you parents listening can likely identify with. A few weeks ago, we sent our 12-year-old son to the local market by himself. Yep, sure did. And to all of my friends who commented on my Facebook post about how you aren't ready yet, here's how it went down in our household. My husband and I honestly reflected on our own childhoods, and like some of you, we were given a level of freedom and responsibility at much younger ages. We grew up in the era of being kicked out the door after breakfast or lunch and just come home by dinner, or when the street lights come on if you grew up in the suburbs, or by sunset if you grew up in a rural area like I did. And keep in mind, we did not have cell phones to check in with our parents. I need you to remember that time right now. They just had to trust not only us, but their own parenting skills by that point. They allowed us to be kids and do whatever we were going to do. They didn't even really want to know about it. Just stay out of trouble and be home by dinner, right? So we would head off on our bikes or on foot find our friends or take our siblings along, and we just went. Of course, I think, my God, how could they just let us do that when we were 8, 9, 10 years old? But they did. Probably because their parents did. It was a norm of the times. We also didn't wear seatbelts or helmets, so there's that. And hey, we survived. These days, these times, we want to wrap our children and ourselves in a protective bubble and ensure nothing bad ever happens to them or to us. We want eyes on them at all points throughout the day. We want to monitor their internet activity and their text messages to make sure they don't do or say anything stupid or dangerous. We want to keep them from social media. Oh my gosh. You know what? Here's the thing. Mine got on social media without my permission. He just did it. He sent me a Facebook friend request one day, and that's how I learned he was on Facebook. Now, he didn't stay long. He can't even remember his login information at this point, but I look at the things that he posts on there and I'm like, okay, whatever. We have to give our kids a little bit of freedom to explore and find their own space. And that's where I am now as the mom of a middle schooler. That was a mind fuck of a transition from elementary school. When we were invited in any time that we wanted to have lunch with them or volunteer for field day or any of those things, now in middle school, it's like, back off, we've got this. These humans are coming into their own and they don't need helicopters circling while they do. I don't tell the boy about his upcoming activities because I don't get the memos anymore. He tells us about them and we plan accordingly. It's a beautiful thing, really, this letting go, allowing them to dabble in some independence. And I think my husband and I do that on a passive level, the monitoring of internet activity. We aren't super vigilant about it. We review the boys' text messages from time to time, but we aren't actively in his business every day. We don't have monitoring apps on his phone. We simply pick it up and we look around, often right in front of him. Can he delete things? Sure, of course. But that's where the trust comes in. We have to trust on some level that he's going to make good decisions. We also know he will make mistakes. That's life. We all do it. That's how we learn. Anyway, with our own experiences in mind and the fact that my husband forgot to pick up milk and juice on his grocery run, we told the boy he would go on an adventure the next day and ride his bike to the local market. Now, we have a huge system of nature trails. You've heard me talk about them before. They connect to our neighborhood, and there's a path that takes him straight to the store parking lot, so he never has to get on the street or navigate crossing traffic or anything like that. We gave him directions to go around the dog park, and he's been on those paths enough times that he could visualize how to get to the market. We made sure that he had his phone charged the night before, gave him some cash, told him to ask questions of the employees if he needed to, and we sent him on his way, allowing and trusting. I went about my morning of doing yard work, and before I knew it, the kid was back in the driveway with his backpack full of the goods. He also brought me a pack of Reese cups that I didn't even ask for, so I think I will keep him. Of course, he got himself a little treat as well, but that's beside the point, and also to be expected. It's fine. He earned it. What we did not do was put any thought whatsoever to all of the scary scenarios that our brains try to conjure up in order to keep us safe. Remember, that's part of our default programming, and staying safe means avoiding pain. I won't speak for my husband, but we have had conversations about the fact that we have neighbors who won't set foot on the trails. And quite frankly, we find that tragic. There are snakes on the trails. That is fact, especially copperheads. Yes, they are prevalent in the summer for sure. They like to sun themselves on the warm pavement. We are told there might be unsavory characters, men that could assault you. I have personally been offered mace by a police officer neighbor. If you like the trails so much, I'll get you mace that you can carry, or pepper spray. I declined because I've walked these trails almost daily for 6 years now and never once ever felt threatened or frightened by anything, not man or creature. So why would I put any thought to that? I just don't. If I have it in my head that something bad could happen to me every single day that I set off on a walk, then I'm not really going to enjoy myself, am I? I'm going to be anxious, on alert, and tense. That's the kind of energy I'll be bringing. That is not the experience that I want to have, so I don't even think about it. I want to enjoy the experience of nature, seeing smiling faces along the way, breathing fresh air, smelling the wild honeysuckle, and hugging a few trees. That's what I think about every time I set out, and so I enjoy every minute of it. That is the energy that I bring because I trust that each experience will be fulfilling, and I release the notion that I have any control of the outcome while still envisioning that it's going to be just right. And that's how we handled the boys' little solo outing. Well, it wasn't little. It was really a rite of passage in the grand scheme of things, wasn't it? We just knew that he would be all right. He would make it home safe, just as we both had through our own childhood experiences of being turned loose in the wild. He knew how to find his way there and back. He knows how to read people. He works on being attentive. And he has a damn cell phone. We didn't have the luxury of that technology in our youth. So when we are tapped into the power that we have of envisioning the outcome, yet not attaching ourselves to how it comes to be, then we can find a knowing within that it's all going to be just fine. In fact, it will be better than fine, no matter what. I didn't think about all of the things that he might encounter between point A and point B, and I'm confident that he didn't either. He was hyper-focused on his mission. He was stoked to have the few minutes of freedom and trust of his parents, and he did so good, you all. He really did, because we let go just a little bit. Now, I want you to consider this little story I've told you and examine how you can apply it to some areas of your life. It doesn't matter whether you are a parent. Perhaps you need to release your own inner child and stop trying to be so protective of her or him. Perhaps recall your own first taste of freedom because your parents did give you some trust and they allowed you to go off on your own and have your own experiences. It eventually happens. When it happens may not be up to you, but it does happen. When you're a child, it may not be up to you, but it does happen. How could you be holding yourself back right now because you've created all of these scenarios about how your movie is going to play out instead of just releasing all of your expectations and focusing only on the ending? And I know that I said not to be attached to the outcome. Here's what I mean by that. When we focus only on the outcome that we want, yet we are not attached to it, that's where the magic happens. Let me give you another example of this from my own experience. Very early on in this life, I was in my 20s. I had a job that led to a repetitive motion injury. I had tendonitis in my wrist that got so bad that I had to wear a cast for a while. The job wasn't supportive of my injury and I had to leave. As I was looking for a new job, I came across one that I thought would be perfect for me. It was working in a greenhouse. I was so nostalgic for my upbringing in a greenhouse business that I was certain that I wanted that job. That job. I envisioned myself working there, caring for the plants, smelling the soil and the water, being outdoors, feeling the sun on my face, performing physical labor that would not be repetitive at all. I got a little bit attached to that vision. I thought that would be so awesome that I admit I was disappointed when I got a call from the manager of the greenhouse to tell me that I did not get the job. I even remember her saying, "This is the call I was dreading to make." But you see, the thing is, my resume gave the impression that I was overqualified or maybe better suited for office environments, since that's where I had been for several years. The owners had to have been skeptical about my abilities to go from office to outside work. Putting myself in their shoes, I would have been. I get it. On paper, I didn't present what they were looking for. I would be taking a pay cut, and they weren't sure I would settle for that long term. I mean, I was grateful to have that conversation with the manager who interviewed me. Reflecting back, that might be the only time I've ever had a personal phone call to say, thanks, but no thanks. These days it's an email, if that. It's not no news is good news. You get no news, you don't get the job. Hello? So yes, I was sad about it for a minute, but I wasn't consumed by it. I had to let go of that idea, that vision. And here's what happened within 2 weeks. I got a job at a local community bank that was looking for help desk support. It wasn't until I interviewed and actually got started that I realized that I was the help desk. There was no team, there was no structure. They were just trying to find a way to bring that work in-house and ride out a contract with another company that had been providing those services for them for years. And guess what? It paid twice the amount the greenhouse gig paid just to start. I ended up working there for 10 years. I thrived. I was promoted over and over again. My salary kept growing. The experience I gained surpassed all expectations, and I was Assistant Vice President of Technology Services when I left. My friends, that is the universe at work. I didn't get what I thought I wanted. I got something even better because I released my expectations. But I'm going to be honest and tell you that I wasn't able to fully do that until I received that phone call telling me I didn't get my quote-unquote dream job. I had envisioned working in a greenhouse environment. I ended up in more of a corporate setting. I was not in control. And we have to be okay with that. It was not a terrible trade-off, all things considered. I wanted a job that paid the bills, that I thought I would actually enjoy. And the universe said, nah, let me give you a career that stretches your personal and professional growth and does so much more than pay the bills. We have to be okay with not being in control of every little thing in our path. We have to be okay with letting go a little bit, allowing things to unfold as they will, and trusting that it will be in our best interest, our greatest and highest interest. We don't always know what that is. We may think that we do, intellectually, logically, but let me assure you, we do not. Now, certainly the corporate environment came with its own set of challenges. Ultimately, being in that environment did allow me to stretch and to grow so much more than working in a space that I already knew well would have. I sought the comfort of familiarity. the universe decided that I needed to challenge myself a bit more with the totally unfamiliar. That's how this works. There is always going to be comfort and safety in what you think you know, yet discomfort is the price of admission to realizing a life beyond your wildest dreams. The theme that I'm recognizing in sharing both of these stories of past and present with you is that both involve tapping into my inner child. The first one about sending my son to the market on his own was recalling that I had done it myself, even younger and without the technology that he has. And I had that knowing from having lived those experiences that everything would be all right. The second one about landing the job that I really needed over the one that I really thought I wanted is about trusting that the universe has your back and that everything will be all right. Because as children, for the most part, we are unconcerned by worrying about the outcome. We know we will be taken care of. Very young children don't worry. Even those in countries experiencing war and atrocities, you see it all the time. There will always be photos of children in the rubble doing something like dancing or singing or even enjoying play. No matter what, they are alive. Sending the boy to the market on his own, of course I had a bit of attachment to the outcome that he was going to arrive home safely. What I didn't do was concern myself with how it would play out, who or what he would encounter along the way, and I celebrated the adventure that it could be for him, just for him. That's the energy that I sent him off with. So many years before, when I got that phone call and I knew I wasn't going to get the outcome that I had hoped for, I released my expectations and surrendered. I didn't fight it. I allowed everything to unfold as it was meant to, and as it turns out, I was meant to go work at the local bank instead. The years that I spent there and the relationships that were formed remain some of my best memories to this day. The trajectory of my personal and professional growth through that experience were beyond anything I could have imagined. That is what we really need more of in our lives. Could that statement be true? More of the letting go, more of the releasing our need to control, and more trusting and allowing that everything is going to unfold as it's meant to. Perhaps not exactly as you expect it to. In fact, maybe even better, as it is meant to be. As Rumi says, life is a balance of holding on and letting go. My friend, letting go doesn't mean releasing your love or your caring. It means releasing your need to control exactly the way things are going to happen. You may not be able to see it in the moment. That can be a bit tricky. I can't even tell you how many times my end result has been even better than what I had planned or hoped for. But I don't always see it in the moment. The how in the title of this episode may not be what you expected, right? It's not the steps to take to get from point A to point B, but it's about trusting that you may end up at point C or D instead, and it's all going to be wonderful. And so I want you to ask yourself today what it is that you're not willing to let go of. Where could you relinquish your need to control what is happening and just allow and trust that the protection that you seek is already available to you? What moments of your life so far can you recall that have actually worked in your favor, even if you couldn't see it at the time? even if it was downright painful as the process was unfolding. I know that you have them. We all do. It's time to see them. I was trying to hold on to my childhood memories and even recreate them when I was going after that job in a greenhouse. It wasn't meant for me. I was able to let go of my own child for just a few minutes and allow him to go off on his own, trusting that he was capable of making the decisions that would bring him home safely. Yes, indeed, life is a balance of holding on and letting go. For sure, parenthood is an amazing test, but even if you aren't a parent in this life, you're always parenting yourself on some level. That's how I see it, most definitely. If you are able to always keep in the forefront of your mind to allow and trust, then amazing things are going to come your way. I'm sure of that much. That's really all you or I need to be certain of. And even the simple, mundane things, find wonder and delight in those too. Send gratitude for them and enjoy the ease of this life you are living every day. Okay? Okay. You've got this. If you appreciated this episode, please take just a moment of your time to write a review on Apple Podcasts so that others may also find a bit of spark in these messages. Thank you for joining me on this journey. It is always an honor to share my life with you. Until next time, light up, shine on.